My name is Izzy, I'm 24 years old, and I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. The first question I always get asked is, what is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome? Well, EDS for short is a genetic disease that's pretty rare. It affects the collagen production in the body. Collagen isn't produced correctly, and it affects the skin, the muscles, tendons, cartilage, anything in your body with collagen, which is actually more than you might realize. You know, most people associate collagen with your skin and looking young, which obviously I do because I am 24 and I often get asked if I'm 18. But it causes a lot of problems. It's progressive in the sense that your body can't repair itself properly. Every scratch, every abrasion, every bump and bruise, every dislocation, everything I do to my body and my joints is cumulative. It all adds up. When I was in junior high, I ran track, I swam, and I was a gymnast, and I loved all of it. But I had no idea that at the same time I was doing permanent damage to my body. So here I am, 24, and I've degraded to the point where getting around outside of the house without a cane is impossible. And doing things like going to the store without a wheelchair, impossible. I can't. The joints in my body most affected are probably my knees, with my ankles and hips in close second place. My wrists and fingers are somewhat affected. My shoulders seem to be pretty okay. I don't seem to suffer a lot of subluxations there, but again, it's progressive. So now that I know about it, because I was diagnosed December 15th in 2010, I've been able to take better care of my body, take preventative measures, do physical therapy. I was not able to participate in land therapy. I had to do aqua therapy because the degradation of the joints in my knees is to the point where being on my feet for more than a few minutes at a time is not even possible. My EDS causes complications regarding pain and my heart. So I have been diagnosed with fibromyalgia and POTS syndrome, which is postural orthostatic tachycardic syndrome. My heart is not strong enough to pump blood when I stand up, so my blood pressure drops. I suffer fainting spells, dizzy spells, things like that. And it beats arrhythmically sometimes, so irregular heartbeat. And the fibromyalgia is also a huge problem. I do have the Fibro Flares, as they call them, where I get random nerve pain or joint pain. It just flares up, sometimes depending on the weather. Of course, anyone with EDS can tell you we don't. We know when a storm is coming. We're like, oh, our joints are aching. EDS is, as I said, it's pretty rare. It's inherited. It's a hereditary disease. So I get it from my mother. It's one of those things that most people don't know about because, when people look at me, they just see, a 24-year-old girl. A lot of times when I'm using my cane, people ask me, oh, what did you do? Did you hurt your knee? And I was like, well, sort of, I guess you could say that, yeah. But it's more than that. And people just assume because I'm young and because I look healthy and there's no physical deformities that they can see that I must be fine. And part of what I want to do is change that mentality. I think people don't realize that there are a lot of what are called invisible illnesses, and there are things that are wrong with people that you can't necessarily see, which, I think people kind of underestimate sometimes because it's something people don't talk about. And I try to be very open. I love raising EDS awareness, and I go out of my way to explain it to people. I take the time, and I try and reassure them that, no, please ask questions, please, because the more the rest of the world understands about this illness, the better off I am. It just makes my life easier. So I do take time to kind of talk about it. And people are curious, but people are also cautious because I guess there's this whole stigma where you don't ask about people's illnesses, and I don't like that. I know that it's personal and that some people don't like to talk about it, but why not? When you don't talk about what's wrong, and this is a huge problem that I have both in my personal life and my family. My family's one of those people you don't talk about things, and I hate that. I really do, because it creates, not only is it alienating for me when my family doesn't even know what's going on with me, which I've since said abolished. I was like, no, I'm going to talk about this whether you guys like it or not. But it creates a sense of alienation for myself, so for the victim, because a lot of people, they don't want to talk about it. But I feel like not talking about what is wrong with myself or with other people, all it does is make it worse. That's all it does, because people don't understand. When I first got diagnosed, I was actually really embarrassed. I didn't want to talk about my illness, and I didn't want people to know I was ill, and I just wanted, all I wanted in the world was just to be normal. And so I thought, well, if I pretend hard enough, if I pretend really, really hard, you know, I will be normal. The problem with that is that by pretending to be normal, I was lying not only to myself, but to everyone around me. And it was affecting my friendships, it was affecting my relationships, it was affecting a lot of things. It caused a lot of problems. It was easier in the end for me to just be completely upfront and honest and talk about it rather than keeping silent. I realized that if I was just upfront and I told people about this right off the bat, and they were like, well, I don't want to be friends with you, that would save me like 6 months of, wasted time. Because those people are obviously people I don't need to have around me. I mean, it's hard for some people to understand invisible illnesses. I mean, I get that. I don't necessarily blame them. It makes sense to me to a degree. I mean, before I found out I was sick, before I figured out something was wrong, I never thought about it either. I mean, you don't think about it till it affects you. And just some people can't deal with that stuff. They're not good at it. And, that's fine. I don't really blame them. I just don't want those people around. And that's, it's my own prerogative. I think my biggest issue, though, is that because these things aren't talked about and no one knows about them, it creates this media stigma. I use a wheelchair. I have to. If I want to do certain things, I need one. And when you go to the store and they have the little electric scooters? Oh yeah, I totally use those. No, not gonna lie, I use those. I need to. I can't get around the store otherwise. It's too much. It's too much walking. I can't do it. My knees, my hips, and my ankles can't deal with it. And I got accused, of course, at a Walmart, of joyriding. And I was like, excuse me, do I look like I'm having fun, or do I look like I'm shopping for fucking groceries? And it's this media stereotype. Like, if you're not like missing a leg, or if you're not paralyzed, because the whole thing spawned from the fact that I got up out of the scooter to grab an item that was too high for me to reach from the scooter. Look, I'm not paralyzed. I can stand up. It's just difficult to do for long periods of time. And if I stand up too quickly, I can faint, which is an issue. I don't want to faint in the middle of a store. Thank you. Pass. But like, there's these people who just think that because I stood up from the scooter that, oh, I must be fine. And I'm like, it's these media stereotypes that really need to change. It's these stigmas. It's this mentality that everyone who uses a wheelchair must be paralyzed. Yeah, I look normal, but I'm sick. My name is Izzy. I'm 24, and I have a rare genetic disease.